Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever part of the world you are in. Welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict
Live.
We are so excited to be back here, Ross. I know
Yeah.
last week we weren't here, so we are so excited to see you guys, and we missed you, all of you. So we look forward to having a great discussion today. And as always, we'll take your questions later on. There are a few things we're gonna be talking about first. Then we'll launch into our topics. So
We'd like to thank you for subscribing. It makes a huge difference in terms of our ability to get the word out. Please continue to do so and inspire your friends also.
Indeed, Ross, we can thank our viewers enough for their support, and I mean the spread. Word of mouth about the
Right.
channel is a big deal. We also want to thank our Patreon members because their continued support is always there. And for you, if you like our videos and you truly want to show us your support, consider joining our Patreon membership. To all of you, we say thank you.
Additionally, thank you for the suggestions as to guests on our show. If you will let us know who you'd like to see, and if you will go to some of their YouTube presentations and tell them to contact us about being on our show, it would help us a lot in terms of getting them on the show.
That indeed, Ross. I mean, we are trying. It's just the schedules and all that. That would be great if they can do that. So, and I also want to talk about just some housekeeping stuff before we launch into our what's going on around the world. And then we'll launch into our topic. So, one of the things we want to share with you guys is we want to let you know we are in the process of establishing some specific courses. Those are very detailed, in-depth courses. We're also going to launch a new website that you're going to see in about a few weeks. So it'll be here. We'll make the announcement on it. And it will have a different type of a membership that will be very inclusive. It's much bigger than what we've announced this far. So we will keep you updated on all that aspects of it. So
what do you think? Is it time for the top stories of the week?
Yeah, why not, Ross?
Okay.
Let's start with that.
Well, I'd like to start with Madame Meng and her speedy trial. Only took 2.5 years to come to trial.
Well,
what do you think here?
Indeed, they are going through the process. There is right now in the court, the decision for whether she's going to be extradited or not is going to be made mid-September. So we're looking at about a month from now. And we did tell our viewers that we're going to do a follow-up on it.
Right.
You know, what was interesting about it, and I got some information about that one from reliable sources, that indeed the Judge Holmes, she is so kind of perplexed about what the evidence is. It's almost like there is no, so somebody's been manipulating the process, shall we say. So it would be very interesting. And we're gonna make a decision whether to have another interview with someone else regarding that, or we will do just a video about it to keep you updated on that case.
Something very interesting.
Yeah.
China and Russia are sharing weapons. Now, keep in mind that these guys were almost at war with each other in our lifetime. I mean, seriously, war.
Well, what's interesting about that, Ross, is that they are doing a military joint exercises together, which means they will have a chance to exchange the type of weapons they have. But why is that happening in the first place? It's because the United States is conducting military maneuvers in that part of the world near China with 21 countries. Oh, you can just see where this is going. We'll decide whether we're going to do a video on it because we're going to have to check on some information. Just we wanted to let you guys know about what's going on.
Do you see this? I'm seeing this as a direct response from China and Russia as to, yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. The dog, somebody passed by the house. So, yeah. She is a good dog.
And so, of course, China and Russia are doing this because they've got a joint adversary.
Exactly.
Oh, here's another interesting.
Yeah.
Argentina and China doing business together.
You're right. Whoever thought that? There was some talks about, okay, is Latin America has been forgotten? No, it's not. It just, the United States is not, we all know the history of the United States in Latin America. China is looking at it differently. And guess where this cooperation is coming? Not only about infrastructure and so forth, but also about the pandemic. So which means China. it's going to help Argentina when it comes
with vaccine and
with
so
vaccines
on.
and so forth. Yes. So.
Julian Assange, close to extradition.
Well, yeah, that was very, very disturbing information came out that the judge kind of, it's almost like they need to set the man free because they're saying, well, he's suicidal, he's this, and which is none of that is true. So
right.
He's now in Belmarsh prison, which is interesting enough. Belmarsh prison, what I know about it is that a maximum security, that's for high criminals. It's kind of like, okay, are we seeing the double standards of justice system in the West?
I think we have the answer to that one.
We do.
New war in Lebanon. You talk about inflaming the entire Middle East. Here we go.
Well, exactly, because anytime, if there is a war in Lebanon, especially between Hezbollah and Israel, you can expect the Middle East is going to go in flame. That's always been the case, And now they've been exchanging some. I hope it does not escalate. Let alone Lebanon is also having economic issues internally. It's a mess in Lebanon. I don't even understand what that government does in Lebanon. So they need to get their act together because Lebanese people do not deserve that kind of attitude or sort of conduct from their representatives in their government.
Drone attacks in the Persian Gulf on tankers. You talk about a new era of war.
Exactly, because that went through drone. No boat was there, nothing. That was in the Persian Gulf. Now the United States and Israel are pointing fingers at Iran. It's almost I sense. I'm still digging into that to get the full picture. But my sense is, are they pushing towards a conflict with Iran? It's almost like, okay, what are we triggering these tensions? For what? Why can't we all live in peace? I mean, I just don't get it sometimes.
Boy, me too. North Korea, really upset about the military drills with the U.S. And as you'll recall, Trump stopped them for a while. And now here they are again. And North Korea, terribly upset by it.
So what you're referring to is South Korea conducting military exercises with the United States.
Yes, that's correct.
And in response, North Korea said, we will cancel all the security talks, and which is because North Korea, the way it looks at it, any military maneuvers close by, they look at it as a threat. So you can just see why they will, I don't understand South Korea's motives for even moving forward with something like this. It's almost like those politicians now, they don't think about the consequences anymore. And that's,
if you just have this one short sentence about the history of North Korea.
Yeah.
Of course, they invaded South Korea, and the response from the United States and allies was that they put more ordnance bombing in North Korea than they did on World War II. They leveled every building in North Korea. Wow. And so North Korea has this in their memory.
Of course, they're not going to forget. That's almost like the Chinese. They didn't forget what the Japanese did.
Oh, absolutely not.
I don't see them how they're going to forget that. That's just the norm. So what do they expect?
Right.
Yeah. It's
and are they afraid, or are they paying attention? Yeah, I think
You're
so.
Absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct.
Well, what do you think? Should we go on to our topic today?
Well, how about we create something? Why not? Let's talk about something interesting.
Well, there's this conflict between China and the United States.
So I heard.
What do you think is at the heart of this thing?
Trade?
Well, maybe. What else?
Taiwan?
Taiwan, yeah.
Hong Kong?
Hong Kong. What about maneuvers in the South China Sea?
Oh, that will be also added to the equation.
What about rare earth elements?
Yeah, and that's the thing that nobody was paying attention to. At the crux, at the heart of these tensions is something behind the scenes about who controls rare earth minerals. And China happened to have 90% of that. But do we all know what the backstory is?
Oh, the backstory is even better.
Yeah, I know, because Western media is not reporting it accurately.
In 1960, California controlled rare earth minerals. They mined them, they processed them. But the issue was the amount of pollution and the expense of doing it.
That's correct. So
they said, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Russ.
So they said, well, who's available to do this?
Yeah. And this is what we're going to be addressing today. So we're going to be talking about the importance of rare earth minerals and what does it mean for the future, the global economy, and also even for your daily life, how that's going to impact you. Before I forget, when we get to the questions time or session, whatever, would you please make sure to put the word question so we know it is a question so we can address it quickly. So,
something that might be fun is because, you don't talk, there's not much conversation about rare earth minerals or rare earth elements.
No, you don't hear much about it.
Electric motors, wind turbines, cars, speakers, microphones, lasers, drones, computer hardware, all sorts of sensors, nuclear control rods, computer memory, fuel cells,
Wow.
MRI scanners, the visors on welders' masks.
Oh my gosh.
Aircraft engines, fiber optics, military.
Yeah, the military application, that's for sure.
And you go, that's your cell phone.
Wow. Yeah.
The computers that we're using.
Yeah.
Rare earth minerals.
Yeah. Well, it's of course it's been the conversation as to why the United States is having this I won't use the term obsession, but this aggressiveness towards the Chinese and so forth, towards China rather, not the Chinese, but China as a whole. What has never been disclosed is this rare earth minerals, the control of it, and of course, as we all know, China has one good strategy. To no fault of theirs, because they were willing to do the dirty work. Because when I say dirty work, I'm referring to environmentally.
Oh yeah, the environmental impact of separating these rare earth minerals from the surrounding material is radioactive. It is dirty. It ruins water tables. It just goes on, and it's expensive.
Exactly. And so China was willing to do all that, and all of a sudden, when China moved forward with that, yes, they went through that the first phase. All of a sudden, they developed the supply chain strategy.
Oh, boy.
Then all of a sudden, we point in favor. When I say we, not only the United States but the West in a whole, as a whole, pointing fingers at the Chinese. They are hoarding the rare earth minerals. Well, wait a minute. Aren't you the one who shipped it to China in the first place? So it's the same thing. What happened with manufacturing, if you recall?
Oh, absolutely right.
Same thing. We told them, hey, China, can you produce this for us and that and that? They said, sure, we'll be happy to do the work. You share some technology with us to understand all this. And all of a sudden, they became good at it. And all of a sudden, we are attacking now because I can see the concern of the West. Because here is where the concern was. With the idea of rare earth minerals, China does not need to fire any shots. All China needs to do, control.
Cut the supply.
That's it. Cut the supply. Because when you're talking about 90% of the world supply of rare earth mineral comes from China, if I were advising the Chinese, like, you guys don't need to get into any conflict with the West. All you need to do is shut down the export of rare earth minerals.
And we know that they're willing to do it. In 2010, they decided to cut off Japan because they were in some disputes over some islands. They cut the supply.
Yeah. Well,
boy, did that get everyone's attention.
Exactly. We're seeing it right now with the microchip.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, media here in the United States, and I'm going to say it straightforward, as you know, Ross, I don't sugarcoat them.
You don't.
They are not reporting the fact that the automobile industry in the United States is suffering. They are now worried about the next 2 years. There is not enough microchips. So a rare earth mineral that we use in so many, I mean, you guys look at your phone or that computer you're looking at, that has some elements of the rare earth minerals in it. So the phones, like what you mentioned earlier, the fridge, the dishwasher, you name it.
It has some. The average car has about $200 worth of rare earth minerals in it.
I didn't know that, Ross.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, but you can just see.
So you don't even have a car.
I know. You can just see now why. So now it starts to make sense as to why we in the West are pushing this aggressive stand towards the Chinese not only because of the trade tensions and so forth, which is aside, but also because the concern that the West is having. And here is where I am so perplexed and confused as a Westerner. I'm saying to myself, why? Here is what I'm confused about. Why don't we sit down on a table with the Chinese and said, let's come to some sort of an agreement where we can benefit both of us?
The Chinese seem perfectly willing to do that.
Yeah.
And as we saw in Alaska,
the
United States seems to have some other agenda. At least the government does.
Well, the hawks, there are hawks in Washington that they don't want to see some sort of conversation with the Chinese in which we can reach an agreement towards benefiting both countries. And this is not going to benefit just the two countries. It's going to benefit the whole world.
Right.
This is not about just China or the United States. This is about the whole world. Can you imagine when you create, let's say hypothetically, you create some device, let's say in healthcare, some device that use rare earth minerals,
like an MRI,
something like that, far advanced, that can help with whatever issues are, and let's say the United States put the capital in it, the Chinese put the technology in it, all of a sudden they came up with a device. This is just an example, won't that device will benefit not only the two societies but also the rest of the world?
Yes.
To me that's common sense. Why these tensions? Why this animosity? Why? For what?
Well, the question is, who does it benefit? Well,
we all know who benefits here in the United States. I am sure in China they have their own political dynamics internally. As a matter of fact, when I'm saying Chinese system is perfect, China has its own problems internally.
Oh, and they're massive.
As a matter of fact, now I just find out, I've been reading some, I just find out that China has some issues within its corporate structure.
Oh, yeah.
They got also massive sexual harassment issues that's going on. There's a guy there by name Wu, if I'm not mistaken. He's well known and something. He's been charged now with rape. So they got their own issues. They got their own whatever they need to deal with. That's beside the point. What we're looking at is what can we do together, the US, the West, China, that can benefit the rest of the world.
Just as an aside, the military, the generals in Beijing are pushing bigger budgets. Be prepared, more war machines.
Well,
oh, what a surprise.
Yeah.
That's their bread and butter.
Well, also because they're seeing what's coming from the West. What do you think? If you are a general, what would you do? You know what I mean?
There's that as well.
Exactly.
You have an adversary doing South China Sea maneuvers with a whole bunch of allies. You're going, what do we do?
Yeah. As we always say, the adage in the West, for every action, there is a reaction. So you are surrounding a country with forces around, maneuvers or otherwise. What do you think? How are they going to interpret that? So,
one of the outcomes of this is that it actually did get the West's attention, and now there are now corporations are investing in rare earth minerals, the exploration, the production, and it's starting to make a difference. They had to, because China let Japan know, which meant let the rest of the world know, hey, we're willing to cut this.
Yeah, and we're gonna do a show on that one, Ross. We're gonna do a detailed a little bit more than just the live here. We're gonna do a show on it, just for you to know, guys. We will be having a show that we will release next week. So, but here is the thing: what most Americans do not know, because what most Americans have been fed as far as information is that China controls all this. No. There are 3 states in the United States: California, Texas, and Wyoming. They have massive deposits of rare earth mineral, especially in California.
Well, the next major manufacturer of these minerals is in Texas. They're building the facilities right now.
Yeah,
they're preparing.
So, but you never hear about it, because it's if they can attach the negative connotation to it, to China, then those are the bad guys. It's kind of, it's becoming what's the word I'm looking for? it's almost like when we use the word democracy, this, democracy, that, and all that, because we abused the term, it lost its value. I look at it just with this recent incident with the UK sending its, and their Prime Minister Boris Johnson saying to promote democracy and the rule of law. What is he talking about? What democracy are you talking about? It's kind of, such a loose term that we can justify everything we do in terms of democracy.
A friend of ours, Cyrus,
Yeah.
he did an entire show on how to maneuver words to make a neutral event inflammatory and to denounce China.
I remember that one. I watched it. It was a very, very interesting.
He did an excellent job with that.
Yeah, I have a great admiration for Cyrus. The guy, he's been there, so he knows the things inside out. And that's usually what does not get reported in the West, as far as let's present or provide the context under which we are saying, well, China is doing this, China that, And once again, just to make it clear here, because some comments have saying that we work for China.
That's ridiculous.
The answer is no. So, and whoever thinks like that, I will have to say, I do forgive your ignorance. I'll say it straightforward, because that's very pathetic for them to
we
even be
are
thinking
Americans, and we're looking out for the American people. And we want to bring these issues to people's attention so they can make informed choices. Let the legislators know. Have a worthwhile opinion based on facts, not propaganda.
No. And that's the whole idea for us. Why we're doing all this is to create a platform by which, if this can help in promote peace or an understanding towards a different culture and civilization altogether, we will be in the right direction.
Yes.
At least paving the way. So we can't compete with those big media corporations. We don't have this kind of resources, and we're not willing to be this kind of no. All it is we'll talk common language that you and I and all of us understand, are familiar with. And the only objective, and this is why when I read those comments, it pains me to find out that some individuals still think like that, let alone it's an insult to our viewers.
Yes.
Or how they are, and for that, I will not tolerate it, because we all, the team, the entire team, we have great respect for our viewers. I mean, you look at just the level of intelligence in their questions.
Oh, yeah.
I read stuff personally, word for word, just to understand where they're coming from, and it's incredible. So when you come across those comments, well, you guys working with China for Chinese? I mean, it's pathetic. It's ridiculous. But the thing, just to go back to our topic about the rare earth minerals, it's because the media here in the US does not provide the argument as is. We're the one who decided to ship the stuff to China and say, hey, guys, can you work it out?
And how often do you hear about the importance of rare earth minerals?
You don't.
You don't. It's in everything, but it's like, well, it's invisible. I mean, China works on plans. They say, well, here's the 5-year plan, fit 20. And so how China's done this is they're doing the mining. They're doing the prospecting and the mining.
Yeah.
Then they're doing the processing. Then they're doing the refining.
Yeah.
Then they're putting it into products. And they ship the products worldwide.
Yeah.
Going, and how come this is working? Because it's a coordinated plan.
Yeah.
We look at China and say, well, this is, they're pretty peaceful. Inside their government, they're not peaceful at all. They're constantly, the conservatives and the liberals are constantly.
Like any other government.
Like any other government everywhere. But they managed to put these intelligent plans together in spite of the animosity that really is going on inside the Chinese Communist Party. They managed to pull it together. Well, this plan is working.
Yeah. And this is the advantage they have, is that they came up with a strategy.
Yes.
And you can, do you blame them for that?
I think it's smart.
Yeah, they looked at it, thought about it, and said, okay, the West is not willing to get its hand dirty. You know what I mean? We will do it, but we're going to own the supply chain. And they did. And it becomes now
90%.
We hit 90% of which it is very powerful when you control 90% of rare earth minerals. And mind you, Russ, just to let our viewers know, China doing all this without even touching the rare earth minerals in Afghanistan. He didn't even get to that yet.
And you talk about a wealth in the ground.
A lot in Afghanistan, which that was the whole idea of why we went there in the first place, let alone terrorism and all that stuff. That's beside the point, But that it's coming now to a different outcome altogether with what the Taliban are doing. So that is the bottom line to it, is the idea of, we're not reporting, the media that says, I gotta be objective in providing an assessment about an issue, whatever. Well, here is one, the rare earth mineral. Why don't you report on it objectively?
Right.
So let the American people understand that has nothing to do with China hoarding the rare earth mineral. We in the United States ship that to them.
By agreement and by contract.
Yeah. Exactly. Now, where do I see the danger of all this, Ross, is that this could trigger a conflict. It's like, almost the way I look at it, like oil. Back then, it used to be the wars over oil. Then it was an assessment that I read one time a couple of years ago, how water could become a cause for war in the next 50 years. That was way back when I read it. Now, I feel comfortable, and this is, again, guys, my personal opinion. I don't speak on behalf of anybody but myself. I can feel comfortably saying that rare earth mineral could become a source of a military conflict.
Well, we certainly see a lot of action and activity to prevent that by the West creating its own sources of these rare earth minerals.
Well, as a matter of fact, the United States now is investing some money into all that also, but they're going to be just playing catch up. You know how it is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's that train has already left the station
with 90% of it in China.
Yeah, and even for us in the United States, when the United States said we're going to be investing in this, we all know the waste that's going to be happening with taxpayers' money. I mean, don't even get me on that. Don't start me on that, because I get broiled over the massive waste that the government is doing. And yet, majority, I shall not generalize, but majority of Americans have no clue, have no idea. They have no idea, Ross, how much waste the United States government, as far as money. I look no further than Afghanistan.
Oh,
20 years. What did we get from it?
We got a black eye. We got essentially the takeaway is the United States got humiliated again. Vietnam too.
Yeah, and that's here is this mighty military stuff and a $756 billion budget, the yearly budget, couldn't even defeat the Taliban. It's sad. It pains me to say this. I'm not saying it out of just be spiteful, whatever. No, I'm not that type. I'm an optimistic guy. I always think of the positive side of things. But you gotta call spade. You can't be sugarcoating that. You can't be trying to figure out nice words for it. But you say it the way it is. It is plain and simple a waste of U.S. taxpayers' money.
Concerning Afghanistan, I think you said it. You're the first person I heard say it. It's attacking Afghanistan is an empire killer.
Oh yeah, that was the saying that goes way back.
Really,
Afghanistan is a graveyard of the empires.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, there is no force was able to conquer Afghanistan. I mean, you would think we will learn from history. Let history. This is some of us, again, I shall not generalize. We just do not read much. We do not read. That's why we don't understand certain cultures. Take the example of China, a 5,000-year civilization. We're not going to understand, for example, that personal relations are very important. I got to develop that trust with you before we engage in whatever. And that trust is so crucial. That's
when I first started studying Mandarin.
Yeah.
You start with vocabulary building.
Mm-hmm.
And because the course was, I didn't know it at the time, but the course was actually put together by the Chinese Communist Party. I didn't know it at the time. What do you think the initial vocabulary words were?
Which one?
Family members.
Wow.
I mean, that's relatively useless in terms of grammar and so on. I dropped the course because I didn't like how they were doing it.
Yeah.
and took up something else. But that lets you know family and these personal relationships are everything.
Yeah. And we don't have that in the US because we are an individualistic society.
Yes.
What's in it for me? It's all about me. Other societies, they think about what's in it for the community. So anyway, let's move on with your questions, and we look forward to reading them and answer whatever we can. So, all right, let me see what the first question is. First question is from Jack. Good to see you, Jack Robert. I like that screen image. That's the Godfather. So good to see you, Jack. The question is, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos paying a British company to mine more rare earth metals in Greenland.
Oh yeah, good source.
How will this affect the rare earth market on a macro level, and what are the other externalities? Good question. That's almost, I feel like it's an economic question.
One of the predictions is that the price of rare earth minerals is going to go up because no one can produce it as cheaply as China. But at least it'll be available.
Yeah.
And we'll still have all of our devices.
Exactly.
And we can't be held hostage by the Chinese.
Yeah. Well, they will think, but I'm sure Bill Gates will have some other. I don't trust that guy. So anyway, I'm sure there's something else going on. Yes, it is some investments going on between Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos into that. But also they are thinking in terms of the space program, believe it or not. That has to do with what Jeff Bezos is thinking about.
Oh, of course.
The civilian travels to space down the road. They are paving the way for something like this. But as far as China's market, no, China will always have that market. Yeah, the United States and whoever else, they can invest their own money to come, but they will be playing catch up with China. So, next question. Thank you, Jack, for that question. Next one, Berikov. Good to see you, Berikov. And the question is, news that Iran is preparing to join SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, as a member, as an observer member, as a matter of fact. Currently, it's just an observer, yes, in CS. Is this substantial and a major, especially in geopolitics? Oh my gosh, good question, Biryakov. It is indeed, and I read up on it as the Iran being invited to be as an observer, which is a big thing. Why is that important? It's because of the dynamics that's taking place, not only in the part of the Pacific, the Indo-Pacific, as far as the South China Sea and all that, but also in the Persian Gulf. So being an observer on an entity like that paves the way to more partnership with, and we all know about the $400 billion deal.
Oh, yeah, between China and Iran.
Yeah, and we also know about the Iran and Russia in talks about the S-400 missile system. So we all can see where it's going. To me, the way I start to looking at it, Biryakov, it's like a triangle. China, Iran, Russia. It's a triangle. They all have something in common.
They've all been sanctioned by the U.S.
You're right. Next question. Great question. Ariel, good to see you, Ariel. I haven't seen you for a while, man. So the question, do you think China's interest in Latin America has also to do with rare earth mineral? Specifically, how do I pronounce that? Lactinium, which I do not know what that element is. Thanks for mentioning China deal with Sinovac in Argentina. Yeah. The answer, Ariel, is I do not know. I do not know that. So whether it has to do specifically with that or because Argentina is a big market. It might not be to the level of whatever, but still a big market. So if I am to understand this correctly, this is again my opinion, China wants to make sure it has a foothold in Latin America. And the best countries you can deal with around there are Brazil, Argentina, Chile to a degree. And those are the key ones. Venezuela, of course, for the oil. So the answer is I do not know for that, but I can look for that and get back to you. Okay. Just as a reminder, guys, because we the producer Elizabeth is seeing so many statements, we don't know if those are just a conversation between you guys or they are questions. So if you will be kind, then if it is a question, just put a question there. And we can sort it out quickly. So, Next one. Axel Schroeder. That's a German name.
Ach du Lieber.
Yeah. Good to see you, Axel, and thank you for being here. So the question is, will the increased demand in rare earth minerals speed up China's long-term plan for space exploration and eventually mining the moon?
Oh,
You got it, man. You hit the nail on the head. And this is why, in my opinion, this is why the West is not reporting much. All they are reporting in is the negative aspect of China's hoarding 90%.
yeah.
Because there is an element to the application for rare earth mineral in the defense and the space programs.
Absolutely essential.
It's essential. It's incredible. As a matter of fact, most of the applications in the military and space, they depend greatly on the rare earth mineral. And yes, for China, that's why they want to head to the and land on the other side of the moon, which we don't hear much about here in the West. We don't hear much on all that stuff. Yes, the answer to your question is yes. China does have those aspirations for those are long term. It's going to take a lot to do that one. So,
oh, really a lot.
a lot. So, next question. We'll see. Muhammad Ali. Good to see you, Muhammad Ali. The question is, don't you think it will be good for the world peace if the US and the West for that matter, start engaging China instead of circling China?
How emphatically can we say yes?
Exactly. Yeah, that is a great question, Muhammad Ali. And you will think that will benefit all of us humans, regardless where you came from, regardless what color skin, regardless what your ethnicity, your religion, your political orientation, doesn't matter. We're all going to be living in peace. But what most people do not understand, there are elements within Washington that controls the government itself. Those are behind the scenes. When you start to think about the elite, if you will, when you start to think about certain aspects of who really control idea of all this is because you will think, okay, a lot of people do not, I'll speak for us here in the United States, and I'll speak for myself. Majority of Americans do not understand their role inside a system like this. Yes, in the Constitution, it says the government is for the people, by the people, but they don't understand that. They don't understand what it means,
Right.
And the government finds it convenient if I keep everybody busy, everybody glued to the idiot box, TV, everybody's busy with whatever, because
Everyone's distracted away from what's really important.
yeah, because they don't want people to think. Because here is the thing. If you start to think, you become a threat to the government. So that is so the answer to that is yes. That's where. Next question. Hi, Boone.
Hey, Boone.
Good to see you, Boone. Boone is our Patreon member. So good to see you, Boone. Hope the family is doing great. So is Kamala Harris really using the phrase U.S. is back for her trip to Vietnam?
Oh, I hope not.
That would be embarrassing. That would be embarrassing. I'm glad I'm not on that trip. That would be embarrassing, But on a serious note, the U.S. is considering sending military to Vietnam.
Well, there's enough animosity between Vietnam and China.
Yeah, but can you imagine the U.S. putting military back? I mean,
this is, to my mind, is unthinkable. But if
yeah, most Americans have no idea what led up to the Vietnam in the first place.
right.
Yeah, it's as I said earlier, Boone, and to all of you guys, sometimes we use the term so loosely that it lost the value altogether. Vietnam is doing fine. Then now it's going to be stirred up into Can Vietnam afford a conflict with China? Can Philippines afford a conflict with China?
And we know that they cannot.
Yeah.
And even though there was a war between China and Vietnam, Vietnam has no interest in investing its meager resources into military. And to side with the United States makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. It was the same argument Duterte of Philippines made 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
almost like, what do you want Philippines to do? Fight China? That would be a massacre, as he puts it. And those are his words. So Nicola, good to see you, Nick. Question is, you guys mentioned that the majority of the American public are unaware of the waste of taxpayers' money. Why do you think this has happened? Is it due to the education system, the media, etc.? Great question.
I happen to be intimately involved for a number of years with education in the United States. And I can absolutely assure you that it was a plan or it just happened that the American education system has been majorly dumbed down. And there's no incentive to teach young people how to think. Brute memorization and goals that serve the system as opposed to serve the students are paramount. And we also see major distraction. We noted a minute ago, major distraction in terms of what are the real issues? Well, most Americans can't tell. I was in a conversation with somebody recently, in a conversation with China, and this person who's relatively smart said, well, I think we just need to be afraid of them.
Wow.
And I said, for what for? Are they threatening you personally? And he said, well, I don't know, but I'm afraid of them. They're going,
yeah, it's sad for, as a faculty, I'm a professor, I teach, and I used to be affiliated with a well-known university, without naming names here and all that. And I decided to leave. Why I left? It's because they just not put in the welfare of students first. And I said to them, straightforward, the welfare of my students come first, regardless, I mean, if you think that the job is what defined me, then you're wrong. And they didn't get it. That institution didn't get it. So I wasn't willing to sacrifice the welfare of my students, no matter what the cost is. So I told them, it's been nice meeting you all. I remember, you know what pains me the most, Ross? I had football players. Some of them were crying once they found out I'm leaving.
oh, wow.
Yeah. Why? It's because I was teaching them differently. They don't need me to stand there and read the slides to them. That's pathetic. But I was challenging them intellectually.
I understand.
And they appreciated that. So the answer to your question is yes, because the education system is not focusing on this stuff. And that's one of the reasons.
I left my last university job many years ago for that exact reason.
Yeah, it's education system in America is good. And we're going to do a deep dive on it in one of the shows. So, next question. SC Player 1000. Good to see you. First time I see this name here. We're glad you were able to join us. The question is, are the U.S. currently pulling their forces home to refresh, retrain, and redeploy in a major looming conflict with China?
Sure looks like that.
Yeah, to a degree, but I won't go as far as mainly just for that. It's because here is one thing. I was a former military myself, so I'm not going to hide that from you guys. That was back then. So here's the thing. The morale of military, of the soldiers is so low.
You take a look at the suicide rate and it's just shocking.
There are some issues in a U.S. military because they are overworked. They are in deployments for reasons that they have no clue. I'm sure if I had a chance to interview a soldier now, all I ask him one question is, do you know what you're fighting for?
Yeah.
So the answer would be no. So yes, the U.S. is, I concur with one part of your question, is that the United States foreign policy has shifted to Asia. But it didn't happen last year, didn't happen the year before. That happened during the Obama administration, way back, when they start to shift to Asia, because Asia is becoming the hub, the economic hub, and the U.S. and at that time they start to see China moving up.
Yeah.
Well, what a way to deal with it is by flexing our military muscles, and that's not going to cut it this time around. That's not going to cut it. So there's some partiality to that answer is yes, but not 100%. Next question. Dakin, good to see you, Dak. I always read his comments on the videos. The question is, do you think U.S. politicians are seriously considering waging a war to solve economic problems such as rare earth? Which side is more aggressive, Democrats or Republicans? How about if you add both? Yeah, it's not a laughing matter. It just because here is the hard truth that not only foreigners but even Americans do not know. Both parties, the Republicans and Democrats, have been controlling the political process in the United States for the last 150 years. Why do you think we don't have a third party here in this country? It's because the system is set up to be controlled that way. So you only have two choices: Republicans or Democrats. So the answer to that, no, it's both. It's not even the political parties. And just FYI, they are what I called the hidden hands that controls the U.S. political maneuvers around the world, per se. Even the president of the United States, a lot of people do not know. President of the United States has no power. President of the United States does what he or she is told. That's how it works in our system. And yet, every citizen here is not equipped to understand those dynamics. So, a war on rare earth minerals, I would say conflict about a major war, it's unlikely. It's because that will have to be some, literally, if China cut off completely rare earth minerals, U.S., if they cut off the U.S. from the rare earth mineral completely, with U.S. having no options. Now, in that case, yes, you can get up for a war. Yeah. Other than that, it's going to be this tit for tat, and for whatever, how long it's going to take, I do not know. So, next question, Leslie Wu. Good to see you, Leslie. I'm glad you were able to join us here. What if China and Russia have a military exercises off the coast of North America? How about near Cuba? That's a perfect question, and that's logical.
It absolutely makes sense. And what we saw in the Cuban Missile Crisis, the United States just freaked out.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine Russia and China coming to the Gulf of Mexico and doing exercises here? As a matter of fact, the Russians did one exercise near Hawaii way back.
Oh, yeah.
And we sent destroyers and all that stuff. Yeah, I see your argument. So what gives us the right to go near a country's water borders and all that stuff and do whatever? So who are we to decide? I'm an American and I understand all this, but at the same time, you got to be realistic. When your country or government is doing something wrong, you call it off the way it is. So the way how other countries are reacting, or China in this case, I personally would expect any country in that situation to react.
And China is reacting.
Yeah. And here is the thing for China. Because if China doesn't react, it's over. Because China now is at that crossroads. Now or never. You're going to have to either make your point, because if not, China will lose face, because it's going to become just words versus deeds.
Right.
Yeah. And China has to think seriously before it acts, if it is willing to follow through, because if the moment it backtracks, it lost credibility. That's usually how it works with this kind of stuff. Next question. Makazu, good to see you here. Your question. Hey guys, what role would you perceive Indonesia to have as a potential buffer between China and the U.S. client of Australia? Oh, cheers to you, brother. That is a good question. And that of a geopolitical, this is where the political geography comes in. Very, very interesting question. Indonesia will want to think twice, and I am sure they will think twice before making that decision. Can you imagine a buffer zone between?
I wouldn't want that position.
It won't be. That's why
it's a lose-lose scenario.
And that is why ASEAN countries are really are considering their positions.
They want neutrality at every turn.
Yeah, because they know if they get caught in the middle, they're doomed. So as to Australia, I met some Aussies before, wonderful people. I mean, truly. I hope you guys do not, judge Australians. I read some comments. The people are incredible. It's the Canberra government.
It's the current Canberra government.
Yeah, the current one. When Kevin Rudd was the prime minister, Australia has incredible relations with China. Trade was booming. Everything was fine. This current government in Australia had just followed blindly. I mean, literally, and I'll say it the way it is. They followed blindly because they didn't think in terms of how this is going to impact an average Aussie, Australia. So yeah, Indonesia in this case is going to be thinking. The same applies to Malaysia as well. Philippines, Vietnam, and all the rest. So, and I don't see Indonesia just going blindly into this. They're going to have to think very, very hard and twice before they make that decision. Tukir, good to see you, Tukir. Does ethics play any role in U.S. military decisions? That is an incredible question. I'll let you run with it, Ross. That's your background.
God. Oh my God. Apparently not. When we have our government spokespeople saying that the 20,000 people in Iraq that died of thirst and starvation, those are acceptable losses. To who? And we take a look at even like Madam Meng, 2.5 years on charges that are flimsy at best. I mean, I think that the morality of this is shockingly bad.
Yeah.
Do you have what's your opinion?
Well, I concur with that because I saw it in Yemen.
Oh,
I've been in Yemen and I saw, kids are, a year and a half. I mean, just bones. There's nothing to eat. There's nothing. And because we are supporting the Saudis for giving them weapons for them to do the blockade. Shame. Because where is this morality of us standing for, where is this democracy and freedom and all that stuff when you couldn't follow humans regardless? Follow humans. You see in somebody who has nothing to eat or didn't eat for the last 48 hours and we kind of like, we just shrug our shoulders.
Right.
Because that's not what a decent human being will do, regardless where you came from, regardless what your background, regardless whatever. So the answer to your question, yeah, there are big questions about the morality in the military. Even military people are thinking, soldiers that is, sometimes they have to think twice about, what am I doing here? Do I, why am I getting in a fight here with this person who didn't harm me at all?
I happened to be in a position where I was interviewing PTSD victims after the Iraq first,
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we can't understand why we're killing these people. We just don't understand it at all. And it broke their lives.
And it does. Those things will catch up with you.
Oh, yeah.
So the answer to you is yes, but we don't hear much about it. Next question. Guapo. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Thank you. And by the way, Guapo, thank you for your comments. I read your comments and I responded to some. The question is, would you consider migrate to a neutral, safe country, Singapore, before China decides to preempt nuke the whole U.S. because great threats from America? Okay. How do you understand that question, Ross?
You said, I understand it as you guys going to escape before the Chinese attack us.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
No.
I don't see that as coming at all.
No, it won't happen.
For one thing, they don't have the capability to do the country in.
Yeah.
Like the United States has the ability to wipe out the whole planet. China doesn't seem to have that kind of nuclear capability right now.
That's true.
And I think they don't start wars.
Yeah. The only one thing that China has, and we'll disclose it here because it's not a sensitive information, whatever, that China does have some capabilities from some submarines if they get to Hawaii. And from Hawaii, they can target the mainland. They do have certain aspects to it. It's not going to get to that. And for me personally, I speak for myself. I don't speak for us. No, I will not go to a neutral country because just be no, I won't. If I go on my will, not under those kind of circumstances, but under different one. But again, that's my personal opinion on that one. As to the war, no, I just don't see that because both countries understand what the consequences will be. So. All right, we'll do one more question because we have to go get a few things. LKC, good to see you. A question, do you think China will attack and reunite with Taiwan so as to once for all take away this chess piece from the equation from the US?
You have to do a little bit of a look at the history of this. Mao Zedong was obsessed with taking Taiwan, and he put that into the whole system. And what we saw is Chiang Kai-shek lost China, reestablished a community there, took a whole lot of Chinese treasures with him.
I heard, yeah,
a whole lot.
I read rather,
yeah. And so they're obsessed with it, but there's a whole lot more to this story. And now the price of them going after Taiwan is war with Japan. If I'm understanding that correctly, Japan said, "You go to Taiwan, and we're now in armed conflict."
Yeah.
So it looks unlikely.
Yeah. What this interesting enough is that this will be one of the courses we're gonna delve into with the whole history of it and so forth. Yeah. And by the way, we did a show on the China and Taiwan. I don't know if you got a chance to see it, whatever, but the reason why I'm mentioning this is because we use the term invade. Usually, a country does not invade itself. China's not going to invade. But we had to use the term in the title because anytime you have a military action on a scale like a war, whatever, you use the term invasion. So that's like for us saying here, the US invaded Hawaii or California or took over. We use the term invasion if there is a military action. But in reality, a country does not invade itself. So that becomes the question of is Taiwan prepared to deal with the consequences should they ever go forward with declaring independence? That is the major question that's going to be, and here is the thing that I am just thinking. We here in the West, in all the press conferences and press releases from G7 to NATO to probably we'll hear it in G20 and all that, Taiwan. If there is a war, will the West be there for Taiwan? That's reality, because when you are faced with the reality of the massive destruction that's going to befall you, you're going to think twice. This Absolutely is why I say Japan, whatever Japan says right now, it's just hot air. Japan won't be able to handle China on its own.
Clearly.
Yeah. So, what Japan, it's the same argument that they're making for, which what Duterte said, fighting China, that's a suicide. And this is where you see countries can give lip service, but it's in action that you find out. When they know that's going to come to some major destruction, they're going to think twice about it.
There's a whole lot of consideration considering Taiwan
that
the Chinese Communist Party is actively engaged in. I think we ought to save that for a deep dive show.
We will do that. So one more question. That's it. We're done. Okay, we're going to have to go. And we want to thank you so much for your engagement. It means a lot to us. We miss you guys last week. So hopefully we'll be here next week. And at the same time, guys, we welcome your suggestions for topics you would like us to discuss on a live. Feel free to send that one, send a note about it. And please remember, if you have anyone in mind you would like us to invite, get on their website and send them a note about us, about Geopolitics in Conflict show. Probably they never heard of us. So that's usually how the word gets out. So your support means a lot to us. So, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And till then, as always, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.